What's up, everybody? This is the Owl Recap returning from BlizzCon. We are a show focused on covering the news, matches, and results of the Overwatch League, and in the case of today, the Overwatch World Cup. I am super excited to be back. That was a very energizing weekend we just had. Some amazing matches, bittersweet victories and losses, but we're here to talk all about it. And to do that, I got my trusty co-hosts Bob, how you doing?
Hey. You called it an energizing weekend. I would say if you're using that in the terms of lots of adrenaline throughout, but then a hard crash Sunday, then I would agree with that.
How about the word inspirational,
Oh
right?
yeah, it got me reinvigorated for Overwatch League and Overwatch. Even though there wasn't much announced, like all I gotta say is dude, uh, the replay client, the client. What did they call it? I forget what they call it. The client where you could watch whatever you want.
The World Cup viewer,
Yeah, biggest thing ever.
very cool tool. Yes, I've been enjoying it quite thoroughly, both while at BlizzCon and after I have returned. I have watched a couple of matches in it, and I really like it, even though it's still a little bare bones, but it gets the job done at least. The main thing that we've been wanting it to do. But also, let's not forget about Melrina. How you doing?
Hello. Oh, I'm inspirationally exhausted, but it was fun. It was a good time. We met a lot of people,
A lot
and
of people, yes.
I know
A lot. Yeah, we've met a lot of people before, but this was out of this world.
we stayed up entirely too late. Even Andres made it up with us until 4 in the morning, which
Saturday
was
night,
actually
Andreas was a champ.
5 in the morning. We got back to the hotel, and it was like our hotel clock hadn't changed, and I was like, "Oh no, that was bad." But then we made it. It was fine.
Yeah, it was a very weird time shift, especially for me on Sunday when I was returning. Like on the plane ride home, I gained or I lost like 3 hours, but I gained one in the morning because it was like the saving time. I don't know. I didn't know where I was by the time I got back to Atlanta, but it was well worth it though. Let's get right into it though. We want to thank especially our Patreons right before we get into our episode, especially our recap producer Shazir, which we got to meet in person during BlizzCon. What an awesome guy. Him and his wife were both wonderful. He's not only a great supporter of the community, but just a great guy to hang out with. I'm really glad we got to hang out with you, Shaz. And hopefully
Yeah.
we can do it again.
And thank you so much. We didn't get Mel and I didn't get to meet him at the con before the storm panel, and thank you so much for reaching out because it really was really good to meet you guys. We actually were planning on meeting you guys and then going to the merch store and then going to Melissa's favorite band, but instead, like while we were right there, we just decided that we would rather talk to you and order merch later because it was just really cool getting to talk to you.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
merch can wait. You can only meet them once while you're over there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I gotta mention a special story we had with him too. The whole crew got together, all the community, especially of Omnic Lab, and we're trying to make a little community for Owl Recap too as the show grows. But we had a fantastic dinner. They took us to this place. It was a Filipino place, and it's the biggest feast I've ever seen in my life. They got this table covered in plantain leaves, and then like just huge amounts of rice and grilled meat and fish and salads, and it was all kind of like piled up. And the coolest thing about it was that you had to eat it with your hands. There was no forks or anything. They even taught us a little special way to like cup your hand and push your thumb to get the food inside of your mouth a little more efficiently. So it was an experience for me. Shaz was there, he was a part of it, and a lot of other supporters and members of the community that have been a part of it for a while. It was fantastic getting to meet them all, and we enjoyed it quite a bit. So hopefully we can do that next year as well. And if you guys are part of the community and want to do stuff like these, make sure you stay in touch with us, right? Be part of the Discord. Reach out to us that you're coming into BlizzCon. Let us know. We are always down to meet you guys.
Discord.me/OmnicLab.
For sure. And I will say, when we're at BlizzCon, we try really hard, but okay, I'll only speak for myself and Bob because I know this for sure. But we're really bad at looking at Discord and Twitter. And then we'll see it like an hour or two later and be like, oh man, yeah, come find us.
Yeah, and I got
So
lucky because I was just happened to be looking at my phone when Shazir pinged me, and I was like, "Oh, we gotta go, we gotta go." So it was fate. Let's just say fate, not
yeah.
luck. It was fate.
It was meant to be. All right, let's move on to a couple of news. There's not a lot of news going on about OWL right now since the focus was on the Overwatch World Cup, but we have heard that a couple of the people have been leaving or their contracts have not been renewed. In this case, we are a little sad to see Reinforce saying goodbye. I don't think his contract got renewed for next season, and the legendary Reinhardt analyst is now looking for other avenues. A little sad, especially since we've seen him grow very close to his other co-hosts and analysts. They always joke together in the desk, and you can tell that they are a very very tight knit group of friends. So a little sad that he's leaving, but hopefully he can find some other opportunities in the esports. There's been some rumors that he's been talking to ESPN. We don't know anything for sure, but hopefully somebody throws him a bone out there because he's a fantastic member of this community. I think a lot of people like him both as an analyst and as a player, and just as a guy. So I don't know, a
Yeah,
little sad to see him go. What do you guys think?
super sad. Super sad. I mean, he's a fun, nice guy. He knows a lot about the game. I think as we go forward, there will be a lot of opportunities opening up for him on, possible show on ESPN, possible show on ABC, whatever. There is opportunities for him. I just hope they come fast enough before he has to move to something else because I would hate to see him leave Overwatch.
I'm pretty sure they just had to get the top rank guy out for the caster showdown next year. They were like, you know what? Listen, we got to make this a little bit more even playing ground. So we're gonna get out room for.
This all
Oh,
came
that
down to
was
the
a
caster
Bob
showdown.
comeback right there. You just did a Bob.
He performed too good, and now his other casters are like, we gotta get this guy out. He's making
Listen,
us look bad.
yeah, like I need more
It
credibility
was
here.
all Monte Cristo, I'm sure. Monty.
No, but I
No,
think
we're just joking here.
Oh, for
they
sure.
definitely they have they've let go him and Crumbs, and I don't know if they're decreasing the desk size or if we're going to see some new personalities or what's going to happen there, but should be interesting.
Well,
And
they,
it was really great to see all the really nice, wonderful things people put on his Twitter after he announced it.
yeah, they
A lot of
could be.
coaches, a lot of players, a lot of casters.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I've never talked to anybody that says they didn't like him. But yeah, they remember when the league started, there were 4 people on the desk. Moved to 3 pretty soon after season 1 started, so maybe they're moving to 2. I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows? And the only thing we know is that there's been a lot of changes going on. We know that the main cameraman, it's weird to call them cameraman or spectators, but professional spectators of the game that give us the broadcast. 2 of the main ones have left. One of them was in charge of the whole back production, I believe.
Yep.
And now we have seen 2 of the casters also leave, Reinforce and Crumbs as well. So they're either reinventing for next season. They maybe want to bring in new faces, or maybe they want to change the format, like you were saying, and maybe they want to go down to a few less. Right now, they have a pretty big team, I would say, and
For
if you
sure.
need a team like that to be able to put out the performance that they needed last season with all those games happening almost every day of the week. You need a big crew to be able to do that. But we know the next season the games are going to be a little less often, at least. So I wonder if they're
Right.
considering, just going into a smaller team. Who knows?
Well, I do know too that they have looked at that. There's been a lot of criticism about the World Cup analyst desk, right? Have you guys seen that on Twitter? And you know,
I have
the
not seen
I
that.
did
internet.
not see
What
that.
kind of criticism?
Oh, they were mad because there was a lot of joking and a lot more like less analysis, more kind of bantering. But I think there's a happy medium there, and I feel like the desk got that, right? I don't think they went all analytical. I don't think they went all joking. I think they found a happy place in the middle. And again, people are going to complain about
It's
one way
gotta
or the
be.
other.
That's gotta be the vocal minority, though, because just think how boring it would be if it went to him and they're like, and then this happened, and then this happened. I think this should have happened. And I mean, the happy medium is what makes it entertaining and fun to watch. I would not want Sideshow not making jokes. That would be horrible. That would be
If
horrible.
if Sideshow
Yeah,
and Bren got along on the desk, it wouldn't be a good
Yeah,
desk.
can you imagine a serious Bren? No fun.
I did enjoy quite thoroughly Sideshow drinking a whole bottle of syrup just for the fun of
Ugh.
it.
Ugh.
Did you see OG's tweet about
Haha.
Lucio's Lucio's in water?
I did see that.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a
Mm-mm.
little not for me, I would say.
Don't do it. Don't do it, guys.
Well, yeah, that'll do it for news that is coming up. Some changes coming into Owl Season 2. We'll see how those end up panning out and how the league evolves. At least for the production end, we know that there's a lot of things moving. Let's get into the meat of the episode, guys. Let's get into the World Cup and all the occurrences over there because it was kind of crazy. Let's start with the big elephant in the room, the
Let's not.
United States of America. What
Yeah.
happened there, guys? Let's talk about it because going into the tournament, everyone was very confident that the US was gonna perform, probably even take the whole entire thing. But it was a different story after we saw them on that first match, and even the US, I think, was surprised and taking a little bit, um, advantage of. I don't think they were expecting to lose against the United Kingdom. I don't even think the United Kingdom expected to win that match. They were pretty surprised and happy with the result afterwards. Even we even saw Stylosa going crazy and like
No.
pulling his hairs out after like the match.
Oh, dude, I just remember Stylosis standing up and just the look of shock and awe as it was 2-1 UK. And the
Not
next
even
match
him
just
could believe
started.
it.
He wasn't chanting, he wasn't yelling, he was just, I mean, he was totally chanting after they won, but he was just like, wow, we might do this.
Yeah, and then the rest of the crowd is sitting there like,
Oh,
"What is happening?"
and even the announcer, I don't know her. I think she was British, I think, but she said something after the first match, like, "Do you think we could win at least one map?" I mean,
Yeah.
nobody thought
There was a lot
they
of
were gonna
confidence
win.
coming from that side.
It
Maybe
was
that worked in their favor.
Yeah, it was interesting. I
I think,
remember Mel and I were sitting together during the match, and we're just looking at it, and we're talking like, "Oh, I wonder when they're, gonna adapt their strategy and bring out their secret weapon. They better bring out their secret weapon like right about now because it's looking a little rough. Hmm. Wait a minute. Do they even have a secret weapon against
Right.
us? Mel, are they gonna lose?
well,
No,
No.
no.
No. No.
well, and what we didn't get is they came out that first match and dominated with the Doomfist pharmacy to go up against goats, and they dominated with it. But then they just kind of got away from that throughout the rest of it. And Doomfist, if I'm not mistaken, didn't come in until the last few seconds stall of any match after that. And I'm just like, Sinatra, Doomfist.
Well, Andres and I were convinced that they were trying to hide their strategies for the future games. And then after they
Which,
lost a couple, we were like, okay, well, you have to play them eventually, or you're never going to get a chance to play them. Come on, people. But it didn't
So
look great.
uh, let's talk about it also from like an analytical point of view because we did get a chance to talk a little bit with the coaches and their analysts and we asked them hey, what happened because we had a chance to talk to them before and after And before they were a little confident, I think that they knew for a fact that a lot of people were gonna bring goats. It was gonna be a big deal. It's the meta of this patch. Three DP, I mean, three tanks, three supports, very strong. It's not an easy composition to play. It requires a lot of communication. I think Taimu was tweeting out today how hard and how much coordination you need as a team to really pull it off without the enemy team being able to, counter you into oblivion. But that being said, a lot of these teams, that's where they were putting their eggs in. That was the basket. They wanted to go goats. The United States knew that, and they actually did have a plan against it. Pharmacy is incredibly strong against ghosts, especially because goats can't really do anything against the Pharah aside from just shield from the endless barrage of rockets that are coming down. And hydration, I believe, was their Farah expert, their one silver bullet, right, against that meta. And I think that going into the United Kingdom match, they had a very specific plan. I think that they wanted to feature Zachary and they wanted to give Zachary a chance to shine, which is their up and coming DPS player. He's a contender player right now, very young guy, very promising DPS guy. But they wanted to feature him and they stuck to it, right? The entire
Well,
match,
Mhm.
they
and
started with hydration and like you guys said, did amazing and then swapped into Zachary. Did you want to say something, Bob?
yeah, I was just saying like, for those that don't know, I mean Zachary is good. I believe Zachary's going to have going to have a spot. He just looked, I don't know, he looked really nervous to me. This was also his second LAN event ever. He'd only played in the finals of Contenders LAN before.
I
Uh,
think his best bet at this point now is a contender spot or a two-way spot. I think after his performance in the World Cup, and again, I didn't watch every
the
single
group stages, he
replay of
looked good
him.
though. The group, like he had really good numbers in the group stages.
Right. But again, you got to have somebody that can clutch it out.
Yeah, during the group stages, he was looking really good. But like you said, Bob, once he hit the actual land, once you come out into that huge arena with 20,000 people staring down at you and just chanting USA, and not only that, but
And you interview
he
his
got
mom right before you put him on stage.
I
Like,
was
come on,
about to say
guys.
that he got featured like almost like singled out, right? Because he was like the promise. His mom was there. She spoke to the entire arena. So I think the expectations were really high, and
No
this
pressure.
happens,
No
right?
pressure.
Sometimes you choke a little bit, and I'm not saying like he completely choked. I know that a lot of their management was also saying that the team as a whole choked a little bit in the sense that they were not communicating effectively. They were um, speaking over one another. They didn't have a central plan. And one thing that did struck me was that this team doesn't have a clear leader to me. I don't know how their comms went in scrims or anything, but sometimes some other teams, there's a player that kind of stands out as the leader, right? Like if I'm thinking about Seoul Dynasty, I think Ryu Hong, right? If I'm thinking about Houston Outlaws, I may be thinking Jake, right? Like that trusty spokesperson that is making the plan inside of the match. I don't think that the US might have had a person in that match that could have done that.
Would
I've
you?
heard it's raucous.
Yeah, I did hear
I
that too.
have. I'm
Like
not being
the
biased.
yeah, no,
No, no,
I
no.
did. He's just a very strong personality that uh, everybody seems to like and brings the team together. But you mentioned comms, and some of the coaches and players mentioned to us that in the World Cup, unlike the Overwatch League, in the World Cup, the coaches can't hear their players' comms during the match. So I thought that was interesting when I heard that because I remember Arrow walking out to talk to his players on the U.S. team after each map, and now realizing he was walking out cold. He didn't know if his players were heated, if they were tilted, if anyone was being toxic, if people were. I mean, because Zachary was surrounded by a bunch of Overwatch League players that probably didn't like Zachary in over hydration. You know, like that's my guess. think that probably would have been how I would have felt too, because
Well,
I,
I
you
think
know what I
especially after
mean.
the second map, like I
But
think
they
they
can't
were
hear anything.
initially okay with him coming in, right? But then, and this is again all assumption. I think they were probably initially okay with him coming in, and then after they lost so bad the second map, they were like, okay, well we got to do something else, and then they lost the third map, and they were like, well, what's happening? Why is he still in?
They started running into some real problems because not having hydration in meant that they were not going to try to use the Pharah strategy. I think that Zachary tried doing the Pharah at one point in like their Route 66 map, and he
It
didn't get
wasn't
much
pretty.
value out of it. And after that, they got it to the third point where Pharah is not even that good, so he pretty much had to swap rather immediately off of her. And at one point, you could really tell that the US was not engaging the right way. They looked really strong on Ilios. They looked really strong on King's Row, even though that they
Hmm.
lost that second map. But right after that, you could see that they started falling apart. I don't know if their comms were a little convoluted or something, but I had the chance to actually go back and watch the match through the Overwatch World Cup viewer, and it's noticeable a lot of the fights, a lot of that initial engagement, they were just like slightly off sync, where some of them were a little too far ahead, one of them was a little bit too far behind, or maybe one of them engaged just a little bit too soon and got killed without getting any value very fast. So there was definitely a disconnect there. You want to say something, Bob?
Now I want you to tell me about the specific players you watched in that match.
That match, I was watching in Route 66 Zachary, and I was watching a little bit of Ruckus. And Zachary was having a really hard time. He was struggling in most of the heroes that he picked. Um, and I don't know if he was being nervous or he was trying to outperform, like he was very eager to perform. So he was maybe making a few obvious mistakes that got him into a lot of trouble, and he was filling a very important spot. He was filling the Brigitte inside of their goats, and he was filling the main DPS spot. Aside from that, and if you can't gain value on that spot, your team's gonna struggle.
Well, what I was
For sure.
thinking of specifically when we talked about that is you talked about how you got to see Zachary doing different things that we never saw on the stream at all, and didn't even really know it happened. Like him going in front of the Reinhardt as Brigitte and being the first to die, and was it one or two team fights that he did that.
Yeah, he was a little bit out of position in a couple of times. I remember just seeing him just charge a little bit ahead, and I thought he was gonna stun the enemy Reinhardt. That's what he charged a little bit ahead, but no, he
Just a
was just
little
trying to
off
get into
timing.
the back line. Yeah, and like he got destroyed because he got there too soon, right?
Well, and just not, I mean, it's kind of a side thing, but when we talked about that, I got so excited and talked to a ton of other content creators throughout how cool this replay system is going to be for all the content creators, because we're going to be able to bring you different content that you didn't see on screen. And everybody's going to have different content. I'm excited about us because we have a DPS, a support, and a tank. So we'll be watching all kinds of different people that didn't get looks during the actual broadcast. That was a side note, but it's super exciting for all of us in content creation.
No, it absolutely is. And that's not the only game I watch. I watch a few of the other games where they had some of my favorite players, and already just watching them alone, I've picked up on a few things and I was like, huh, it's interesting that he does that because you don't get to pick all of those little details when you're just watching the broadcast on the big screen. You're switching constantly. You're trying to keep up with team composition and like, what are they trying to do. When you just focus on one player, you're just focusing on like what is this player trying to do at the time, and it's very educational.
Yeah, it's
Right.
super cool.
And I think you have to look at it too as you're going to be able to watch any player and see mistakes that they've done, right? No player's
Or
perfect.
good
So,
things.
well, yeah, but I'm just saying you're not going to go in and watch a perfect match from anybody, I don't think ever. So keep that in mind. I know we were giving Zachary a lot of crap, and I do think that he underperformed his potential, but I think he is a good player, and I hope we see more from him in the future. And I hope people don't ream him too bad on the internet.
It's a growth opportunity for him. It really sucks that it happened at the World Cup, and a lot of people had their hopes and expectations set on the team. This was gonna be the year. They finally took it from South Korea, which did not end up being the
Ugh,
case. But that being said, it happens to the best teams, right? We've even seen it with Korean teams that just perform incredible the whole season and always in the final kind of like let it slip. It happens to the US too. It happened to them. I'm sure it was a big learning lesson for all of them. I'm
Is that a
glad
jab at
that
NYXL? Is that a jab at
yeah,
NYXL?
yeah, they happened to NYXL. There you go. Um, but the coaches were taking it very good. They were not blaming it on anyone. I think that Aero as a coach is a fantastic person, and he owned up to it. We got to talk to him a little briefly. He said that that was his
briefly.
plan. He wanted to, trust his gut. That's what he was going for, and it didn't end up working in the end. But you gotta trust your players, and you gotta trust
Mhm.
yourself, and that's what he did.
Yeah,
Congratulations to the UK though, because we have to give it up to them. They
They played
came to
well.
play too. They played really well.
really well.
Everybody was discounting them and saying like, you
Well,
know what, the UK is not even gonna make it, but they showed up and they did a
and
fantastic performance.
oh, help me out. I'm blanking on the Reinhardt for UK.
Fusions.
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 Okay, when Fusions came in, he's the backup. You had to assume it was a downgrade. No, man. Fusions was the entire weekend was just out of control. I mean, this guy was getting huge shatters on really good other Reinhardts, and you just when you see a 5-person shatter in a pro game, you're just like, wow, how did that happen? Like, it's just
Well, and I
crazy.
will say, Fusions and the Brigitte had really good synergy. The Brigitte was really good at stunning the opposite Rhine to get the shield down, and then
Yeah.
Fusions would shatter. So Fusions, yes, had an amazing game, but his team synergy that he had with that Brigitte and the rest of the team was unbelievable, right? And I think that that's really what showed their connection outplayed the USA's
My,
talent, and it was obvious.
yeah. And my favorite play had to be the 2 mile charge on Route 66 where Fusions takes out Raucous on Sin
Oh wow,
all the
yeah.
way across the map. And I was like, he pulled a Bob. I mean, it was so good.
Nobody saw that one coming, not even
Right.
Ruckus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rocket was like, is this
Rock is
happening?
he's just standing there like, really? Really? All the way? Okay. Yeah. But Fusions did get signed as a two-way player by Boston right after the World Cup.
Yes.
Nice.
His performance in the World Cup was so impressive that he got a contract or an offer
I
pretty
believe
soon
it was
afterwards.
before the World Cup. Just
Okay,
because
okay.
we talked to some people that said, "Oh, yeah, some people will be happy about Fusions and his future," and they had alluded to the fact that he had already been signed by somebody.
Oh, very cool. I mean, he was still, playing the entire group stages, and he's been playing for a while, so he got noticed definitely. And whether or not it was before or after the World Cup, during the World Cup, he made everybody notice him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And talking to a bunch of analyst players, coaches, all of them pretty much told us the same thing when asking how big the World Cup was and how players and everybody perceive it. And we found out, I thought it was interesting. I didn't know this before, but the World Cup players consider third under contenders because they just feel it less competition because you're not a full team for a long time. You don't get a ton of time to practice and so they consider it lower than that. So some of them might mess around, not try as hard. I don't know. I did think it was hilarious though. Sinatra teabagged tactical crouched somebody uh, the first match, and then he tweeted to him uh, something about, "Don't you ever do
It
that to
was
me?
like
See what
MK,
happens." And then
MK.
Sinatra tweets back.
That was a huge banter between him.
Yeah, he tweets back. He's like, "Well, I can't do it to you again because you're not in the Overwatch League." And then later on, I forget who it was, the other player, but we couldn't find it because he deleted the tweet. But
No,
Sinatra's
I saw
comeback
it.
was
It's
pretty
still there.
sweet.
It's still there.
I think it was their Saria player, but I kind of I forget his name.
It starts with an M. It's like MK something.
Anyways though, it was a fantastic match. It was a grudge match there too. I think they were going back and forth with it. The US thought they were gonna win, they couldn't, and that's the end of the story, man. Very very sad, for US fans that wanted them to go all the way back to the finals, but it seems like the US is cursed to lose on the
Well,
first round of the World Cup.
honestly, like there was a lot of upsets. I mean, Finland losing to China 3-0 was not expected, and then China 3-0 in Canada not expect. I mean, the whole thing, all the analysts. You show me one person that does what we do week in and week out. Anybody said the U.S. was going to win. You show me a time stamped thing where someone said the U.K. was going to beat U.S. and I would love to see it. There was a guy in the media room that said he did it, but I didn't know his name.
It was definitely a very interesting tournament. It didn't pan out at all how people thought it was going to pan out. Let's talk about China a little bit because China was another huge contender. Since I saw them in the group stages, they look really good to me. And the people keep saying like, "Oh, China, they're gonna do okay, but they're not the best." And I was like, I don't know. This team looks like they're playing really well together. And not only that, they were playing their game a lot. They were playing a lot of heroes that other teams were not playing in certain maps. They put a lot of emphasis on McCree, for example, and their tanks are doing a fantastic job as well, taking out one of the strongest teams at the beginning of the tournament, Finland, which was one of the other favorites. Being one of the teams that had some of the most Overwatch League players. But China in general, just what an incredible performance. And one of the players that stood out to me the most was Leave, their DPS player that just had the most amazing Doomfist that we saw in the World Cup. Just what a monster in it. What do you
Yeah, it
guys
was
think
nuts.
of China?
I thought China and South Korea were interesting because they weren't running a lot of goats. They were running a lot of. They were running. Both of them were running a lot of mercy. Lot of
I
mercy.
mean, when all else failed, all of them switched to goats.
I mean, I didn't see
So,
China and South Korea do it much at all. And the finals, I don't know that I saw goats once in the last match.
They did do it a couple of times. I
Did
think
they?
that
I watched the first two pretty intently, but
a lot of the times that they would do it, I've noticed is when the team is on the back foot. And we've talked about this before, how Goats is a composition that is actually really good, even if you don't have any ultimates, right? It's a composition that doesn't rely on a huge bang, but it's just a composition that just takes over a location and they're really hard to move away and just basically trades some utility for maximum point coverage, right? Or maximum point contesting. Um, and we saw that do that a couple of times where they had lost a couple of the rounds or they were on the back foot of the match and they just needed to regain control of the point. They would swap into goats very fast and just try to take it back.
yeah, I think that the goats thing really sucks. I hope that we get that figured out. Did anybody see any Torb the entire time? I don't think I
yeah,
saw any Torb.
Custa.
I don't. I missed that. I haven't gotten a chance to catch up
Costa played
on
a little bit
every
of Torb. I
VOD.
missed that too. Yeah.
Custa played Torb. I swear Custa played Torb. Okay, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure
I
Custa
didn't
played
I
Torb,
didn't
though.
watch a lot of the Australia games to be fair. I need to go back and rewatch it. But I mean they only had one game against South Korea. And I think during that time we were in an interview with Michael Chu, so we totally missed that one out.
Yeah.
I was just watching like recaps and VODs, and I'm pretty sure Custa was on Torb.
Well,
And he got
tweet at us
and
and
he
let us
got
know.
Anna boosted. Pretty sure.
He got an boosted,
I'm
nice.
pretty sure he did.
The best Torb. Let's
And they
talk a
were
little bit
saying,
about the finals though. China made it all the way to the finals after you said they beat Canada right after Finland and then made it into South Korea, which finally put an end to their incredible run because they 3-0'd Finland, they 3-0'd Canada, then they get to South Korea, and now they're looking like they're not even a team anymore. They look like the contenders versus New York Excelsior. I feel like that's what it happened. South Korea just exerting their dominance. What a fantastic team. Very, very scary team with Jonak, with Carpe. They also had, was it Mono on the tank? I can't remember.
Meko,
Meko,
wasn't
that's
it?
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So a lot of Overwatch League players, a lot of New York Excelsior, and man, Fleta was there too, which I just think is so scary having to go up against Scarpe and Fleta and Jonak all in the same team. Like,
Right.
oh
Yeah.
my god.
And oh my gosh, what was it?
Onimo too.
Okay, Fleta was taking out Farah's in the air as Brigitte with his
Whip shot.
whip shot. Yeah, I was trying not to say shift. I was trying to keep it real and say the actual name.
Keep it real, Bob.
Yeah, I mean they played very, very well. And China actually on the last map did well
Came
ish.
close. Well, they came
They came
close to
really
winning that
close.
one.
They got better as the match progressed. They got closer and closer to being able to take a map, but yeah,
Well,
they weren't able to do it.
so they both got 3 on Watchpoint Gibraltar, right? But then China did a really good hold and held the payload before it went under the bridge. So we thought this
It
was, we
was
were like,
right under
okay,
the bridge. Yeah,
like
it was like right
China's
past the
gonna
bridge.
get this. Like it was right before it goes under the bridge, and we
No, it
thought,
was right under the bridge. It was right past the bridge. It doesn't
Yeah, it
matter,
was
but it was
right past
right
the
okay,
past
bridge,
the
like a little bit past the bridge.
yeah.
you're right because they're fighting in the tunnel. But either way, like we thought, okay, China's for sure got this. I mean, I think they had like 3 minutes and some change, and
Yeah, South Korea only had like 34 seconds, and China had, I think, like 2.5 minutes.
yeah, and South Korea held them the entire time right there.
It's because China went pirate ship, and pirate ship
Yep,
it
Although,
can be great, but if it fails,
it really
it
set you
fails
back
hard.
time wise. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it set them back a little bit. But to be fair, they had to move it such a tiny amount of space, and
Right,
pirate ship is at the strongest when you bring it out by surprise like that, and the enemy team is not ready for it, right? But one thing that they didn't count is that South Korea is just ready for everything. Like
right.
nothing catches them by surprise. It
They're
was
like,
just
oh, it's
amazing.
pirate ship. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, as soon as they saw us pirate ship, they all like retreated to corners where they couldn't do like see anything, and they waited for them to come all the way down the bridge and moving up a little bit without panicking because like you said, Nell, that's the only thing they had to do. If they had moved it like 5 more meters, they would
Yeah.
have won the match right there. But they waited to the last second because they knew that was the best position to fight them. And as soon as that happened, the Bastion got slept, naded, Matrix fell on him, and then just like everything just dove on him, and they
For sure, the
got the
payload
Bastion.
exploded. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, whatever they need to do, but like they are just so good at playing under pressure, and this has been a constant thing for a while now, especially like the top tier Korean teams. Doesn't matter if it's overtime, doesn't matter if they're like 2 men down. When they decide to engage, and several times I thought that China won the match, like
hmm
or that won the fight, right? Like they started the fight and like maybe the South Korean tank died, or maybe like the Brigitte died. And you're like, oh yes, China has this, and then like 30 seconds later, you're like,
Nope.
wait, hold on, they're flipping this around, and the point
How
has
is all of
moved
South
an
Korea
inch.
back?
Yeah, they're all back, and the point never moved. Like,
They had a
how did
teleporter
they do that?
somehow. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
and
know. And
they always come back that quick. Like that's what we saw last World Cup. Like they're good stallers, and you'll see when they're stalling and they have 3 people, they'll rotate those 3 people. And they'll
Yeah, they're
jump in.
rotating.
Diva will jump in, run off right before she loses mech. Then someone else jumps on. Maybe someone chases Diva. I mean, it's nuts how they coordinate
I
the stall.
I think that's the difference, though, is that they are able to stall without stalling and dying,
Hmm.
right? So their stalls end eventually, right? Whereas most teams, you see them run in as soon as that person dies, the next person runs in, but they're getting out before they're dying.
Yeah,
And so,
it's more of a trickle than a stall at that point.
Yep.
right. And so then you see, but they have some uncanny knack to know exactly when they need to get on that point before it goes, right? Because I don't know, for me, I feel like when I'm playing, and I'm not Overwatch League caliber, but still, when I'm playing, whenever I think we have a lot of time, it's like, oh, it's gone. And then when I think we don't have any time at all, it's like, seems like it lasts forever.
Yeah.
So they've
I'm,
got it down. The
I'm the
timing is rock solid.
personally, I'm the worst at control holding the team too long before that we can't get back before they take the point.
Oh yeah,
Like it's at like at 90%. I'm like, all right, let's go now, and then it's like, oh crap, guys, sorry, I should have called that a little earlier. Try to wait as long as you can to get as many people, but
Yeah.
another thing I thought that was interesting about the whole thing was 6 out of the 8 maps were complete shutouts. Like the other team had 0. I thought that was interesting because that's not the way the Overwatch League is. The Overwatch League, those shutouts are not common. Like there's definitely ones where the other team will get one win, but it's not very common to shut teams out.
Yeah, and some part of me makes me think that China got cold feet when they had to face South Korea. I think that they had been playing really amazingly, and as we saw, they started getting better towards the end of the match. But those first few matches were just a complete roll through. Like South Korea just did whatever they wanted. There was not much comeback from China or like potential there. It was just like after the first two games, I remember that you guys were like, "Well, I think this is over. We're gonna go grab some food at the food trucks." And I think that a lot of people had like the same reaction. We kind of stayed through till the end of the match, and it did get a little bit better towards the end. But for the most part, China just, I don't know. I think that they got intimidated. I think that's the word, right? They thought about the
Definitely.
South Korean daddies, and there's like, oh no, these guys are too strong. I don't
Yep.
know if we can do this. Maybe they lost a little confidence there. I feel.
Yeah, it's that whole everybody's got a buddy. You all know you have it. Everybody's got one that just always destroys you. And even if you get better, you still have that thing in the back of
You
your
have it in the
mind.
back of your mind,
You're
yeah.
playing scared, is basically what you're doing. You're playing scared. And I think they were definitely playing scared.
I think they were playing scared in the first few maps because you could see it in the difference in approach. South Korea was just like so decisive and so quick in their decision making, so good at regrouping and just like pushing through and keeping the aggression and the momentum. And we talked about this with some of the coaching too, where South Korea, when they have the advantage, they're not trying to play it safe at that point. Like some teams are like, guys, we have the advantage. The only thing we need to do is not mess up. Let's be very careful. South Korea, on the other hand, is like, we have the advantage. Let's press on the gas even more and bring him down as far down as we can. We need to not only win the fight, we need to destroy them. And you can see that, like, they're relentless with their attack. If they're on the upper hand, they don't give you a break. It's just
Mhm.
consistent, just firepower against you.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a thing that I've seen a lot of teams doing, you know, since basically Arrow came in stage 4, you like he really pushed the whole aggression thing, and uh, London took advantage of that completely. Like they changed the way they played in the grand finals and went aggressive, 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 and then the teams that did really good seem to be the really aggressive ones here in the World Cup.
Well, I think aggressive teams just tended to make the game on their terms as opposed to letting the other team decide how this game was going to go play. So they could say, all right, well, we're going to attack them from up here, or we're going to hold them right here. And the other team had to react to that instead of you having to react to what the other team's bringing you.
Yeah, and they try to give him as little space as possible. That's becoming something very consistent in the top teams. We saw it in the with the United States versus UK match on Kings Row, where they were literally holding them in spawn, and it wasn't because
On
they
point
wanted to
two.
BM them or they wanted to like show off or anything. It was literally because that is what they think the best strategy is. Give them as little space as possible, concentrate them to small chokes, and even if you lose the fight, you're so far into their territory that you will probably have plenty of time to take two or three fights after that, even if you lose them,
Right.
right? So
And it
I
just puts them
think
out of sorts, right? Like their plan that they had isn't working because they can't get out of the spawn door. you know? So like they have
right,
to
and
come
it's
up with an alternative plan at that point.
also a mental thing against the enemy team, right? They're so aggressive, you start losing a little confidence there and being like, start second guessing yourself and being like, wow,
And
how do we even like get out of this one?
individual players start trying to do too much, and then they die, and then that sets you back 15 seconds each time,
And
and
then they
each
get
player
tactical
gets more
crouch and
and
it's just
more.
a cycle.
Yeah, we did hear that tactical crouching actually does have
Is
some tactics
tactical.
to it. Yeah, it's actually not just for BM. I mean, that is the whole premise around it, but I think that is being used purposefully to throw the other team off balance a little bit, to tilt them a little bit. That's the word.
Well,
Because
Everyone
honestly,
knows you always play better tilted, right?
it's a okay, so
right.
it's an age old thing, right? It's an age old thing. Like I was a Chiefs fan and I hated the Broncos, and I remember Shannon Sharp. And Shannon Sharp used to always, I mean, he would just mess with the other side constantly. I mean, and he would really get under their skin and make them play worse. And that's something you can't do in Overwatch because you can't talk to the other team. Now, comp you can, but not in the World Cup. People try to do it in comp also. That's why I just don't read chat because I just don't give them that opportunity. But it's one way to do that whole getting in the other team's head type of thing. It's very similar.
Definitely, no. You want to get in the other team's head and take him off of the game because if they're not concentrating on the strategy and instead they're just mad that you tactical crouch them and they're just thinking about a way to get back at you, you've already won a little
Yep.
bit there, right? On the flip side, though, if you tactical crouch them and then they win, then you're in a little bit of trouble. Sinatra can attest to that a little bit on Twitter.
Sorry.
um, but anyways, I think that is a valid strategy, and hey, I mean, it doesn't make you look good, but it does give you an edge.
Yep.
Last thing I want to mention here is special mention to the UK also being the only team that put up a fight against South Korea, tying two maps
Yeah.
and only losing 2-0 to them. It was the team that probably got the closest to actually being a match for South Korea. It was a very good match. I recommend you guys to watch it because the United Kingdom almost pulled it off there. They were very, very close. And even though South Korea won, I thought that was an awesome display of their skill, and it actually made me feel a little bit better after watching that match. I was like, okay, the UK actually is a fantastic team. I don't feel
Right.
as bad that the US lost to them.
UK came to play.
Oh gosh. The arena
UK
after the
Canada was good
USA
too.
lost. The arena after the USA lost though, guys. It was just like silence with like a little section of a really loud cheering and everyone else just being like, "All right, let's go. Let's go. I
A
need to leave."
whole lot of
Yeah.
sad pandas.
Yeah.
Lot of sad pans, that's true. Also, special mention to Australia and France for making it this far. They unfortunately couldn't get past that initial first round.
And
They
Finland.
Oh, and Finland too. All three of them lost pretty handily, actually, with a 3-0, not being able to take one map. So it was definitely a little bit lopsided. China, South Korea, and the UK, undisputably the best teams this World Cup.
Yeah.
With
And then we
that
had an
being said,
MVP.
oh yeah, that being said, who's their MVP? Mel.
Jonak.
Jonak. That's
I
correct.
really wish that Zoe would have said it like that when she announced it. It would have made it so much better. Like, everybody give it up for Jonak.
Oh, one last thing I wanted to mention. The Lucy O's guy. The guy when they
Oh
were
yeah, go for it. Tell the
talking.
story.
Okay,
Oh my
so
gosh.
it's before the match. They're talking, or was it before or after the match? It was
No, it
before the
was before
match.
the South
Okay,
Korea China
Before,
match.
yeah,
yeah, before South Korea, China, they interviewed the South Korea coach.
yeah. The interview of the South Korea coach, and every time the camera pans right to him, there's this guy right behind him eating Lucio O's. And he's doing it really funny, like with really funny faces, and the whole crowd's losing their mind. And then they cut him off, and then they go back to it because the crowd like loved it so much. And the coach of South Korea did not seem impressed, but
He
I
was
thought it was great.
very
No,
unamused. But
no,
then
no, no.
Danny was like, "Okay, show it to me. What is everybody laughing about?" Because every time he looked back, he couldn't see
Yeah,
because
the
the
Uh
guy would like
interviewer.
stop chewing it, and so then they showed it on screen what it was, and he looked up and he's like, "Oh man!" And the
huh.
South Korean coach is like, "Come on, really?"
Yeah, honestly, it was very funny for everyone, especially because, the interview was in South Korean. So I feel like the entire crowd couldn't really like know exactly what's happening until the translation happened. And instead, they have this Lucio guy just eating Lucy O's like there's no tomorrow and bathing himself in Lucy O's. It was very entertaining, but I felt a little bad for the South Korean coach because I feel like it was a really big moment for him. It was like, oh
Right.
yes, I get to speak in front of the arena, get to give my little speech,
Darn
and the
Lucio's.
Lucy O's guy, dude, he stole the show.
Lucy O's. Let's get this
Yeah, I
right,
know.
guys.
There's so
Lucy
much complaint
O's.
on the interwebs about
Pe-
it too.
People keep correcting me too, and every time I say Lucy O's, I think it was at the streamer meetup. I kept saying Lucy O's. It was the streamer over there that she kept correcting me. She was like
Well,
Lucy O's.
if you were
Every time
saying
I said it, she just say Lucy O's.
if you were saying Lucio's, then the next thing I expect to hear is what Lucio's what his play, his pick rate, like what are we talking about?
Lucio's.
Yep.
Lucy O's. All right, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, Jonak making it to the MVP, now being the MVP of the Overwatch League and the World Cup. This man is on fire. Don't stand in his way because he'll just, orb you to death. There's no point in standing in his way, actually.
He also said in his speech, he's like, "Well, if you didn't know, I got the MVP for the Overwatch League season 1 too."
Just to remind you guys, I don't want anybody to forget.
So let's talk about who's the best player overall in the world. Yes. But yeah, he was like, "This means a lot because it's for my country." And he said, or at least it got translated to him saying that it meant more than the Overwatch League one, which I feel like was just the atmosphere.
Absolutely. I think for those players representing their country means a lot, especially for a country like South Korea, where I've been saying it for a while now, but their number one export to the world is gamers. Just
Mhm.
absolutely amazing at gaming, and that's what they are known for. And being able to come out to the United States and prove that, hey, we own at this game. Don't mess with us. And with their country in mind, their all of their fan base behind them, I think it means a lot to them. We've seen it with Overwatch League too, where the French team, for example, is very prideful of being French. And we talked to a few of the coaches over there as well, and they did say like, yes, soon left for France as soon as it was announced that Paris was getting a team. So these guys love playing for their country. And would really hope that it becomes more recognized over here like that too, so that these players
Right.
can feel very like represented and they can feel that pride of being a gamer in their country, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Not saying that the US doesn't have that pride, because honestly the US does have a huge fan base, and did they have a huge turnout of people that wanted to see them perform and were really sad with how things ended up, but still back him up. So I'm not saying that the US doesn't have it, but I
Yeah.
just want to get stronger than that.
Well, and let me reiterate when I said earlier the players felt that World Cup was third, they felt that competition wise, like how good the competition was. They wanted to win
Or
for their country. They were upset they lost.
oh, for sure. But I think it's more so not even just that they felt that competition wise, but they felt that team wise too, right? Like there's a lot of other things going on, and a lot of players were scrimming with their OWL teams, for a long time before they were able to scrim with their US teams or their country team or whatever. So, yep.
For sure, for sure. All right, before we close out the show, though, we do want to talk about a little bit of the announcements and especially the new hero that is coming to Overwatch. And I know that we don't do a lot of this a lot in the show. We concentrate a lot of Owl, but these are huge announcements, and I know that everybody here in the show is very excited for them, especially because we got to witness them live. And it's been like one of my favorite Overwatch shorts of all time. Like, what an awesome reveal. I'm super happy. I'm sure that everybody who listens to the show is probably already knows, but if you don't know, the new hero is called Ash. And she is a mighty gunslinger, just like McCree. It's like McCree's female version, just badass chick with a huge lever action rifle. Is that what you call that style of gun? I'm not really a gun
It
person.
is a yeah, I think you're right. It's a level action rifle used a lot in the
The Old West.
yeah the West.
Yeah, very, very, very cool character. Also, very mechanically intensive. I already have spent a buttload of hours on her. I arrived yesterday and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try Ash on the PTR. I started playing with Shock around like 4 in the afternoon, and then by like the time it was like 10 p.m. at night, I was like, Shock, I gotta go eat something. We've been playing this for like way too long. We just spent the
Oh,
entire day in the PTR. It was really awesome. She feels amazing. What a cool hero. But before we get too much into her, what are you guys' thoughts on Ash after they revealed?
Well, one thing I know, you loved that short. Was it because your boy McCree was in there?
No, absolutely. You know
That
it.
and
and it was
Bob, do
humorous.
something.
Yeah,
Sorry, what did you say, Emil?
I don't remember now.
I think
I'll have to check it out.
I think she's super I think she's interesting. I think there's a lot that needs to be done with her. Her rifle is really cool, but man, it's super powerful when you hip shot that. I mean, 3 shots to the head can be tech tech tech, way quicker than McCree can shoot, and it's much slower when you zoom in. But I mean, are you going to zoom in much? I don't know. I see the pros zooming in little and
No, no,
really using that
you're gonna
hip.
zoom in with her after playing with her for a while. You definitely want to zoom in with her. Just to give you guys some numbers, because I actually did play with her a buttload yesterday. When you're zoomed in, if you get a headshot, it's 175 damage. So almost you can almost one shot any 200 HP hero. You basically just have to melee or hip fire or it's knees on them basically because
And it
after
is hit scan,
175 it's
right?
hit scan.
Both of
Yes,
them are.
all of her kit are hit scan. Regular fire and alternate fire. Now, when you're talking about hip firing, it's much faster, like you said, and it's her left click. You can fire very fast. Like her cadence is almost like doon 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 doon. That's how fast you can fire. With her other shot, when you're zoomed in, very slow. Probably the slowest gun in the game so far. Um, it feels a little clunky at first because I'm used to McCree and Widowmaker, where you can follow up shots fairly fast. With McCree, you can actually shoot your Peacekeeper at a very fast pace, and with Widow, you can do a full charge shot, and then you can follow it up with another shot fairly quick, even though if it's not fully charged, right? It'll be a weaker shot, but you can basically shoot almost instantly afterwards. Um, with Ash, not like that. There's a delay after you bring out a shot with your scoped. You have to wait a significant amount of time, and it was throwing me off because I kept trying to shoot, but I was pressing it a little too soon, and nothing would come out. So I was kind of like missing my shots. It took me a minute to get used to it, But having that said, very powerful. She does seem like a two-shot hero in my experience. For the most part, I had to shoot people twice. One time in the head, and then another time like a body shot, or even your coach gun can finish them off, because a coach gun at close range can do up to, I think, 90 damage. So it can be a fairly significant amount. But she feels good.
Well, that the dynamite feels a little weird, and the fact that it throws in like slow motion is weird.
Yeah.
It's hard to see. They don't give you an indicator like you would get on your HUD for like a tracer pulse bomb, but that might be something they add in later. Um,
What do you
and
mean
then,
an indicator?
like when tracers pulse bomb is close to you, you get a little like graphical indicator. I'm trying to think of what it looks like, but it's like,
Oh yeah. Well,
um,
with her, you don't get like too much visual, but you do hear
yeah.
the
But it's so
like the
Sound of
small.
burning.
burning
Yeah, the
flesh.
burning.
It's
Yeah.
so small. You're just like you run in a direction and just try and get away from from the sound. But it
Yeah,
was hard to see.
running is good. You do want to run away
Running
from
is
that thing,
good.
because it does a very significant amount of damage. We got some numbers from Switch, and inside of the explosion radius, it deals 75 damage, and then leaves 100 burn damage over time on you. So for a total of 175, it can hit you.
And it lasts a long time too, which is weird.
Hmm.
So you can blow it up with your gun. You don't have to blow it up though, right?
When you throw it and it lands, it takes about 3 seconds for it to explode on its own. But you can explode it early at any point if you shoot
Can
it.
the
And
enemy
you,
team
you,
explode it?
you are the only one who can shoot it. No,
Okay.
I tried exploding many ash bombs yesterday, and it didn't quite work out.
You're like, I got it. No, I'm dead. I'm
The
sorry.
shotgun is interesting how you can use it to shoot up in the air, but also there it's not like a widow grapple. Like you shoot up in the air in like slow motion, almost like how slow Doom falls when he does his uppercut or whatever.
Yeah, it feels more of a fair concussive blast. At least the way that you use it is very similar to how I use the fair concussive blast to reposition yourself. It has a lot of uses though, and it's one of the abilities that I've liked the most about her. I didn't realize how useful it was going to be, but this thing not only knocks you back a fair amount of distance. If you aim right below your feet, it does throw you fairly high. Like you can actually reach second stories more often that you would think. To give you an idea of how tall you can jump, I believe that I was able to get from the ground floor of Hollywood Point 2 to the top of those buildings. You know those buildings that are connected by that little bridge on Hollywood Point 2. I was able to get from the floor up into those buildings with a single jump of the coach gun. So it throws you up fairly high, and you can also use it as an impromptu double jump. You can jump, and then while you're in the air, you can knock yourself kind of diagonally up to double jump into other buildings or cross gaps. I was even using it to bring myself back into the map. A couple of times I got booped by like another person's coach gun, and I was falling to the abyss, and I just shot myself with the coach gun back into the
Oh
ledge,
wait,
and that felt pretty badass.
so it knocks you back even if you don't hit a wall, like because fairs you have to hit like a
Yes,
wall or something.
you don't need to hit anything. It just
Unreal.
you just shoot it at any angle, and that shit will shoot you in the opposite direction.
Ah, now that is wow. That would be
Is
upsetting if it's a Lucio. I
amazing.
boop her off and she comes back. I'd be like, "Are you kidding me?"
You don't know that's gonna happen many times. I was able to do it consistently once I got the hang of it. Incredible repositioning tool, and it has a couple other uses. With Shock, we were kind of getting creative with it, and I don't think you guys ever played Realm Royale with me. But for anyone who actually ever played that game, there's a class called the Assassin that has sort of a similar ability. It's like an explosion that knocks you back and knocks other people back, but how people were using it was to knock people all the way up into the air, making them very predictable. And then once you have him in the air, you can just shoot him because your shots are super reliable as hit scan. So you can get an easy headshot or an easy like double body shot. And I was already able to do it a couple of times where, you know how with Lucio, you can just aim upwards, and if you're close enough, you'll just shoot him all the way up in the air.
Yeah, it gives it an
Um,
arc.
Mhm.
yeah, you can do that the same with her to kind of set up a shot. Or when they're really close to you, you can kind of like boop him away. And as they're flying away, is the perfect chance for you to also do a shot. The dynamite is the same. It feels very floaty, like you said. When you throw it, it kind of just like floats up in the air. But after playing with it for a while, it makes a lot of sense because it actually gives you plenty of time for you as Ash to kind of time the trajectory. And I was using it to corner check a lot. When there's like a widow or a McCree or a soldier kind of like around a corner peeking you, you just throw that at them, and as soon as it gets right past the corner, you shoot it. And I got a bunch of kills like that. It was pretty amazing.
When I was playing it at BlizzCon, I kept doing a thing where I know I'm about to die, and the person on me is like right on me. I remember Rob was on Hanzo, and he dropped to the payload. He's right on me, and I knew I was about to get meleeed, so I just dropped the dynamite at my feet, and then I hit spacebar, skip past the replay, and then I just watch Rob die in my kill feed. I'm like, yes.
It leaves a huge burning over time effect. So yeah, if you can get that on people, chances are they might die. Especially if you get a shot on them beforehand or even afterwards. You can just land the shot and they're usually
Yeah.
dead.
He had like, I don't know, 150 life left because we had been dueling. So I was like, well, I'm gonna leave this. If he doesn't get away quick enough, it's gonna kill him.
You
So
gotta
it's
watch out for it
give a
though,
little
because
present.
it hurts you too. A couple of dice I died by my own dynamite. I tried like fighting a duel way too close, and I tried exploring the dynamite way too close. Ended up killing myself. So
Oh
you do have
no.
to watch out for that.
But yeah, you could launch that. I launched it across the map a couple times. I don't know how easy it's going to be to aim that and hit the spot you want across the map. It's probably not the strategy. Kind of like shooting an Anna sleep dart across the map.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Although this one's a little clunkier to do that because if you don't shoot it, it's actually fairly easy to get away from it. That's what we noticed at least yesterday. You have to get good at shooting it, and it's almost gonna become like that, like flashbang headshot that you do with McCree,
Mm-hmm.
where if you practice it enough, it becomes second nature, and you can actually do it very consistently. But it's gonna take a little bit of like muscle memory build up. The worst thing that can happen though is, and I learned my lesson, when you're fighting another Ash, another person kind of 1v1, and you throw the dynamite, it's a big opportunity cost because then you're trying to shoot the dynamite while the other person is shooting at you. And if you miss the dynamite, you're like, crap. Now I missed like three shots. I wasn't even aiming at them. So you do have to kind of like
When
throw
you
it at smart situations. You can't just like throw it anytime.
are you hip shotting the dynamite?
Both. I was doing it both ways. When I was trying to explode it early, I was just heap shotting and like shooting it right away. Um, Sometimes I would just like throw it really far. Like somebody would be hiding in a corner. Maybe I got a headshot on them, so they were just like hiding behind like this pillar really far away. It has a huge distance, so you can just throw it, and I would just wait for a while, aim, and as he was reaching, shoot it and kind of like kill him like that. It feels really good though.
Not for the other team.
Not for the other team, but for you, it feels like a badass. You're like, oh, you're trying to hide from me. No.
Did you get to play any games where it was actually legit teams where there's only one Ash on each side, or was it like at BlizzCon when we played and it was just all Ashes until
We
people
played
decided to switch to their
mostly,
mains?
yeah, we played mostly no limits and team deathmatch or just deathmatch, just so we could like practice Ash a lot. But we did play a couple of regular team games, and she feels good. She's super scary paired up with a Mercy or a Zenyatta, for example, because if Mercy's damage boosting her, it's actually one shot kills. If you get a headshot on any 200 HP hero, that's it. Boom, you're done. Same with Discord Orb. You get a headshot with 200 HP heroes with Discord. That's a one shot kill right there. So
Wow.
very nice pairing it up with other people, and obviously having shields and stuff you can hide behind, and having the pocket makes you really strong. She has the advantage of having the grenade over Widowmaker and McCree, which actually makes her decent against hordes of enemies, right? Like if the enemies are grouped up, she feels really nice in those cases. She does struggle against a few heroes, I can already tell. Doomfist gives her a ton of trouble. You don't have a stun like McCree, so you're banking on your using your coach gun to avoid him. But if you can't dodge him and his abilities, you're basically screwed. And the coach gun is on a 10-second cooldown, so not like the most reliable escape method once you've used it.
I have one more
Roadhog
question.
kind of tough for her too. You don't have a lot of fast damage. You have a lot of burst, but your burst is a little bit timed. And like a fairly long cooldown with your shots. So targets like Roadhog actually really hard to kill on your own.
My biggest question, though, for you is, what about Bob?
Bob is quite amazing. I can't decide if he's like really strong or just okay.
I th-
When you throw in the right place, he can do a lot of damage and distract the team a lot. Almost force them to just get out of there. Especially if you can throw it like in a room where they're all hanging out. It just can be devastating. But you also have to be really careful because I didn't realize that Bob doesn't stop unless it hits
Mm-mm.
something. And I've already thrown my Bob off the cliff several times, or
oh,
or not
poor
only that, or
Bob.
like he hits something before you want it and it gets stuck like in spawn or something. You're like, God damn it, Bob.
Do
Or,
something.
yeah, or you miss like the payload and he just keeps running into like the enemy spawn and you're like, Bob, come back. That's not where I want you to go.
Well, and
No.
I think it's
I say
interesting.
that all day long, every day.
So you're gonna feel right at home.
So
Bob, no.
you
Yeah.
can use any you can nano Bob. You
Yeah.
can heal Bob. You could I mean you could do like Bob could be a really good we talked about South Korea stalling the point. Bob could really stall a point for a good amount of time to collect your team back up and do one last push.
Unless you miss
He's
the point and he goes into
he's
spawn.
actually really good for that. One team won against us with Bob. Like literally Bob won the game. Um all their team was dead, but the last person before they died, they threw out a Bob that hit the payload, and the payload was like very close to the end line. And then the Bob proceeded to kill like three people that were standing right beside the payload. And then Bob pushed the payload and won the match.
So Bob
Like
did
none
something.
none of the other none of the other team was there.
Finally.
Like literally nobody was there except
Bob
for
did
Bob, and
something.
Bob won the game. I was like, oh my god, freaking Bob.
You're like, we just got beat by a Bob. What just happened?
So he can be really strong in that sense, right? He does represent a seventh hero when you throw it out there. He is time limited though. It's like 8 seconds. So you have to throw it at a clutch time. And if you miss its position, it's underwhelming. It's just like by ultimate wasted. And it is one of those ultimates that if the enemy team is smart and disengages, you can just wait it out. But when it comes in clutch, it can actually
That's
be
why
very useful.
lots of times in 2 CP you can't just wait it out, and so I see him on 2 CP quite a bit.
Actually, for 2CP, he might actually be a really strong ultimate because he's also like almost like a pseudo tank. Like you can throw him in first and literally force the enemy to have to contest the objective because Bob is there. Well, you don't have to be there, right? Like you can be anywhere, and Bob is like a hero. You don't even
Yeah.
need a Reinhardt at that moment. You just got Bob. Bob, go contest the objective for me, and you can go do other things. It's I could see it being really strong for 2CP. Yeah.
Did you see any nanobobs?
I saw a couple of times him being tried to Nano, but honestly, I saw him sleeping more times than I saw him being played.
Ah, yeah, because he just
He's
stands
probably an
there.
easy sleep target.
Yep. He's
Very easy,
big,
very
and once
easy.
he stops, he doesn't move.
One of the easiest way to counter him for sure. Like they throw a pop, you sleep him, nobody touches him. By the time the sleep is done, he's already on his way out.
Bye,
So
Bob.
definitely very strong counter on a short cooldown. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about Ash or any other Blizzard things? We are kind of running a low on time, but any other further comments?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good. It was just it was a pleasure getting to meet everybody, and getting to meet Nanzer was pretty cool. We met so many people. I'm not even gonna say names because I would never get to the end of it. We'd be here for another hour.
If you
Right,
guys
but
want
thank
to know,
you to everybody.
just follow Bob on Twitter. You'll see all of the pictures posted in
I've
there.
yeah, I
You'll
haven't even
see the
posted
whole
all of them.
history.
Like I was just like, oh, it's yeah. Thank you everybody who you all know who you are who invited us into your stuff. We loved it, man. We had a good time, and we'd love to have each and every one of you on the show. So you all have my card.
And thank you to everybody who just said hi. Thank you to everybody for such a great weekend. It was an amazing time and can't wait to see you next year.
Yeah, can't wait to do it again next year. Likewise, I like the comments of my co-host. It was an amazing time this year. It felt even more like coming back home because some people already knew us from last time. Everybody was so welcoming, and we got recognized by a lot of people. I didn't actually realize that we got recognized by so many more people this time. So
Oh yeah, it was it
It's weird.
was it was it was humbling. It was cool. It was like I was talking about the con before the storm. Everybody talks about them being a family. And last year I felt like I met that family, and this year I felt like I had gotten cousin status.
yeah, that was like coming back to a family reunion. Very, very cool stuff. And we can't wait for next year. Hopefully, it's equally as good. To wrap us up, though, you can find us on Twitter at the Owl Recap. You can also find us on Twitch, streaming live every episode at twitch.tv/Owl Recap. You can also find us on Discord over at discord.me/omniclab. And you can always email the show over at contact@owlrecap.com. If you personally want to find us, where can they find you, Bob?
You can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. How about you,
And
Mel?
Mel?
You can find me on Twitter at MelOverwatch.
And you can find me on Twitter at I Play Games. You spell that IPLAI Games. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. We had a pleasure creating it, and we even more of a pleasure attending BlizzCon. Like we said, we are reinvigorated to keep on going for next season, and hope to see you guys next week.
Now I'm going to take a nap.
All right, stop recording. You're supposed to do the Bob do something, Mel. Jeez Louise.
I didn't see that. Sorry.
All
Um,
right, guys. I do have to like head out like right now because
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Guys, we're going to end the stream. We're not going to raid anybody. Thank you so much. We'll be on regular schedule back again next week. Thank you guys for coming. I know it's middle of the day. So thanks to everybody that came. And Mr. Mars, thank you for the sub. Thank you very much. All right, we're out of here, guys. If I could find the stop stream button. Bye.